Hi, I'm David with the EV World News, where we talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. I'm here with our founder, Bill Moore. How's it going this morning, Bill?
It is going good. I got all kinds of things running. I've been going since 5:30 this morning.
Oh my. Well, we're going to get off by starting talking about what Mercedes is doing with their new auto drive with the EQS. And we think that they may have stolen this idea from Bill.
Nah,
And well,
just
maybe. You just never
great
know.
minds, great minds think alike.
There you go. So if you're going down the road and you see a Mercedes EQS and there's turquoise lights around it, that means the car is in self-driving mode
Yep.
or automated driving. So they're the first automaker permitted to use exterior marker lights, which means automated driving is activated in California and Nevada. Turquoise is the color. So that's not something that's normally used on cars, and this will start in 2026. The exterior turquoise lights let the public and police know the EQS's automated driving system is switched on. That way, the drivers don't get in trouble with the law for doing other things besides steering the car. So, in case the driver is not paying attention or something like that, people know that the car is in the driving. Um, Mercedes is once again setting new industry standards. We're the first automaker in the world to receive such approvals in the US, specifically in California and Nevada. The more automated driving vehicles populate the road, the more important communication and interaction between the vehicle and the environment become. I speculate at some time that all these high-tech vehicles will simply be talking to each other, and
Oh
it'd
yeah,
be like having
absolutely,
transponders, and they'll know where the other vehicles are and what the
absolutely. That's coming.
yeah, and what the intentions of the other vehicle may be. You
Yep.
know, it's interesting to see because I'm certain they can execute commands much faster than a human
Now
can.
the question is, will they get into fights?
Well, then
Will there be robotic car road and stimulated road rage?
they'll probably have a random number generator. They'll flip a coin as they're heading into an intersection.
Right,
Heads I go first, tails I
right.
stop. Kind of thing. That honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing. Um, anyways, but it
I highlighted this because God, I don't even somewhere buried in the archives of my blogs, there is an editorial I wrote that that suggested that this is what car makers need to do. Now I suggested that the light should be blue. Well, Mercedes came up with turquoise. That's fine, they're close enough.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. Okay, so our next story. Now we were talking about this. If you took the cartoon movie Cars and
Uh-huh.
you were going to have an electric vehicle on
Yep.
the movie Cars, what would it look like? Well, Russia entered the
Leave it to the
competition.
Russians.
Leave it to the Russians. They unveil the new amber electric car. And
Oh, this is a
hold on.
beauty.
Oh, this is, I always complain that American car makers are attempting to make EVs look bad. Like it's the goal is if we make them ugly enough, nobody will buy them. Well, the Russians have really come through on this.
Yep.
People will absolutely know that you're driving a Russian electric car if you are driving this.
I
Um,
when the designers sit down and design, there is the happy look, right? So you can put a nose on this with the lights and how the grill and
yes.
everything, the trim is in such a way that it looks happy. Or you
No,
can make it look it's
but
aggressive.
Russians don't smile. Russians don't smile.
Russians don't.
So it would be a frown.
So this would be a frown with really narrowed eyes, right? It's sort of I don't know.
It
This
should
was
look
apparently done by a university team. And guys, come on, go back and rethink that nose, of this
I
thing.
think it should look more like an Adidas tracksuit. So the colors, it should have the Adidas stripes and
Yeah.
all that, and make it look like more like an Adidas tracksuit on this thing than this bright
Yeah.
red.
Now I do take issue with the comment that this is the first Russian electric car. It is not. There have been a series of attempts at electric cars and so on since I started EV World 25 years ago, and I'm sure there's there's others previous to that. But this one is the more interesting of the ones that have come along. So, let's as I think the author of this article says, well, at least it made it, past concept and into real sheet metal. So they've gotten that far. They are saying that they think, obviously, because of the war in the Ukraine and the sanctions and so on, they're probably most of the parts that they can't fabricate in Russia, you are coming out of China. So, which of course is one of, if not the leader in electric vehicle technology and supplies and parts and things. So,
And they claim that all the parts are Russian, though, including the
well,
electric motor, and it's going
that's
to be
possible.
classified as a heavy quadricycle.
Oh, okay. So
Um,
basically, it's a 25-mile-an-hour city car. So,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe. It is interesting. I'm really kind of curious what these ports are on the side here. Maybe those are charging ports. Maybe that's, I don't even want to speculate
I
if those
don't
could
know.
be. I mean, and what's going on in the back here? It looks kind of like a hearse.
Yeah, it
Uh,
looks like it's some type of a city delivery van. Basically, that's the way I looked at it. So,
oh, interesting. These are made in Kaliningrad, which is, oh, it's that part of Russia that they took from Germany in World War II.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I
yeah,
can't remember what the name of the town used to be, but anyways, that's the part that's surrounded by Poland and
yep,
Lithuania, I think.
yep,
You know,
yep, yep. Good catch. I
let's,
hadn't noticed that.
yeah. Um, yeah, so this is definitely a different attempt by the Russians to, I don't know what they're trying to compete with here. Okay. Um,
Well, they're obviously going to have a problem exporting it into the European market. So,
yeah, they comment in the article about the VinFast VF8 that maybe this makes the VF8 look nice, but I didn't think the VF8 looked bad either.
yeah,
Oh, they had a previous, I think this was an EV that was attempted before.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That looked,
There've been ones that have come along. The last one that I recall,
ooh, I like that.
there you go, was one of the oligarchs, that got on the bad side of Putin, and I think he ended up getting thrown in jail and then
Ah,
eventually fled the country. That was yeah.
that,
I think that was the car he was working on.
this thing's huge. If unless this guy's tiny, that I mean, look at even if he was standing fully upright, he'd still only be at the top of that thing.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be a fairly tall vehicle, especially for two doors. Um,
yeah.
that's the Uabian Puma. Well, anyway, that was kind of an interesting piece. I'm not really sure what to feature. If we had a world's, it's hard to even call it the ugliest EV.
Yeah.
Um, it's the most intentionally ugly EV.
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like a pug, right? Pugs are such an ugly dog that people
Bet they're
think they're cute,
lovable.
right? And that's kind of where that is. I mean, it's
Yeah, we've
just
got
like,
a neighbor. Well, they don't have pugs. They got English or French, no, French bulldogs next door. So,
yeah, if you're going to drive that thing, you have to go all in and probably
yeah.
have a kind of a different, unique look to yourself. Maybe you look like a pimp or, just something that normal people wouldn't look like, coming out of that car. Um, all right, so here's an interesting statistic that's coming out now, and this is really telling for people in the United States to kind of get an idea of this, because people say that people won't buy EVs. Nearly half of new passenger
Mhm.
cars in the EU are electrified. So in the European Union now, sales of electric cars were almost half of all new passenger car registrations between January and November of 2023.
Yeah.
Already crossed the halfway mark in the month of November alone.
Yep.
Let's see, 47.6% of all new passenger registrations. Now, we already have talked about before how it's over 80% in the Nordic countries. It's a little bit less than other countries, but it's catching up fast. Germany's a big one. Although registrations in Germany fell,
Yep.
there was fewer.
Yeah,
this
they've
year, but
done like
they've been one of the
20%.
rapid adopters. Um, Consumers prefer hybrid electric vehicles with an on-year surge of 28%. Demand for plug-in hybrids, hold on, just regular hybrids went up 28%. Plug-in hybrids declined by 22%.
Yeah. Well,
But that
part of the issue with Germany is that they basically eliminated their incentive program
incentives.
for them.
Hmm.
So that would have a dramatic effect on sales.
Yes. And that's a big part of what's propped up the whole EV industry is, in the United States, we do the tax credits. In other countries, they simply are foregoing the import taxes. And so
Yeah,
that's been a big driver in Europe is that forgiving the import taxes. Now, what's kind of deceptive, if you've got regular hybrids going up, plug-in hybrids going down, I assume battery electric vehicles went up, and so you probably just have some people who were typically might have been a buyer for one type may have simply moved to one of the other two,
yeah,
so it's just,
and it may be an availability issue. What's available in the way of plug-in hybrids in the European market, as opposed to what's available either in hybrids or in fully electric.
what's kind of interesting, it says registrations at Volkswagen rose by 11% in November. And what's interesting is we'd heard news that Volkswagen was having a tough time making
Yeah,
sales in Europe.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's interesting. We get news every day, right? And
Yeah.
it seems like from week to week the news
Scores of stories. Yeah.
right, right. And
Well, I sometimes wonder, what is, I look, I'll be honest, I have a bias.
mhm,
I'm
right.
biased towards electric drive. Um, and I just wonder, in the reporting of these stories, the ones that come out and say, "Oh, the electric car market's in trouble and things are slowing down, yada yada yada," and then you get another report that like this says, "Holy crap! Nearly 48% of the vehicles registered in Europe are now electrified. Everything
Yeah.
from fully electric to hybrid." So I kind of wonder if some of the biases of either the editors or of the reporters, are coming out in those stories.
Well, look at who this article was by. It's U.S. News and World Report.
Yeah,
And I've always considered that to be a somewhat unbiased,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
publication. The problem is it's really hard now. It used to be everybody considered CNN to be like the gold standard in news.
yeah,
And if you look back and say
yeah,
like 2000, they were like the gold standard in news and you could count on them to not be showing bias. Then eventually it's all TV news now is opinion pieces. If
yeah.
you're a news broadcaster, you're simply giving opinion pieces, and that really has made the news really suck. I really don't know what to say. I realize we're doing a form of news as well, but it's a lot of times there's bias towards certain things. I like to look to see what the bias is sometimes in some of these articles because by the same token, could say less than half of all sales were, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
were
Exactly.
hybrid or whatever. But what's interesting is I believe this rate is about 5 times the rate of the United States. And
Oh yeah,
so,
easily. Yeah,
yeah, and it's interesting because it's like, hey, they're doing this in Europe. Not saying that we're a bunch of idiots here in the US, but it seems
yeah.
like they know something and, but
Well, when you ask Europeans, is climate change a problem? The majority, of course, say, "Well, of course it is." And then you
yeah.
ask Americans over here, and you get this, "Yeah, half the population. Yeah, it's not really a problem." And so
We've discussed why that
there's
is though.
differences.
We've discussed why that is though. It's like you would think it wouldn't be a political issue, but it is
Yeah.
because people have pushed too hard from one side to the point where they upset the other side. And it shouldn't have even been a political issue.
No,
And
because it's impacting everybody.
right, and it impacts everyone. And so, anyways,
There's what do we have? We have something like 3 million climate refugees in the United States already, who are,
well, I haven't heard
who are
this.
yeah, who are leaving. and moving out of areas that have been impacted economically and environmentally by climate change. 3 million.
Hmm.
And
Um,
there are people that are try that can't sell their homes because they're on the sea coast in various areas that are subjected to. So it's beginning to impact people. Well, we have the town here of Pacific Junction,
mhm.
right, from the flooding of the Missouri River, a number of years ago. Um, would anybody actually move back in there again?
Did the whole town get flooded out?
Yeah, whole town got flooded. Now, whether people are one thing about human beings, we're resilient, we're determined, and
Mhm.
so there may be people that have moved back there, but I wouldn't buy a house there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
That was pretty crazy though. That year we had record snowfall all winter, and then it heated up all at once, and all
yep,
the snow across 3 states all melted at one time and came rushing down the Missouri River.
yep, and,
And that was pretty rough.
the weather forecaster guys are saying that we can expect going forward more of these atmospheric rivers. Now, whether they'll actually reach here again, most of them have been out on the coast and all down in the southeast part of the country. Well, I don't know. Do you just see all the flooding in New York City again just
Yeah.
this week? It's
Yeah.
just so that's going to become an increasing norm as the planet heats up. That water vapor's got to go somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get on to our next topic, which this is also another 50-50 deal. This has to do with Buick. And
Yeah,
this is kind
yeah,
of an interesting play. So Buick doesn't sell any electric vehicles. Half of America's Buick dealers take a buyout from General Motors instead of selling electric vehicles. And here's a concept for a Buick. Now, that's a really sharp looking
that's a good
car.
looking car. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the better looking
And
EV designs I've ever
I will
seen.
bet it was designed in China. I don't know
Well,
for sure, but I would bet because they've got a huge Buick design center in China.
oh, okay. Well, there's a good chance that's the case. Let's see. Buick dealers refuse to sell EVs that don't exist. Auto car maker Buick will switch to an all-electric lineup by the end of the decade, so it's asked its dealers to either get in on the action or get a buyout. With
Yeah.
zero sales to show, half of its dealers chose the buyout. Now, this is kind of an so Buick has they have four EVs in the Chinese market.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So let's
And they're
see
nice
what we
looking
got here.
vehicles.
Hold on, let's see what we got here. Uh, Buick logo. Okay, this is the one we were showing in the picture. The
Yeah.
Buick Wildcat. This is a concept car.
Right.
It's pretty
Yeah.
sharp looking. Like to think that would have at least 600 horsepower. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I like, so the mirrors are done with a camera here. So you look
Right.
here, you got the
Right.
camera.
So
You know,
improve the aerodynamics. Yeah.
yeah, and obviously this is sharp looking. Buick's always made nice
Yeah.
automobiles. There's
Yeah.
no question they've always made nice automobiles. And here's the deal. 47% or about 1,000 Buick dealers took the buyout instead of investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in tooling, equipment, charging, and training, prepare and sell and service EVs as the car maker prepares to go all electric by the end of the decade.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering how much of that is sort of regionally
Well,
affected. Is it?
and I wonder how much of that argument is disingenuous. So, one of the things you're looking at here, these car dealerships, a lot of them are doing, say, $20 million a year in sales. Every year in that service department, they're probably spending $100,000 on upgrades in that service department. Okay,
Right.
so is that really a big expense? I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, when you're talking about if you have a small business that's just supporting your personal lifestyle, that's one thing. Car dealerships are big business.
Yeah.
You are not broke owning a named car dealership.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is a pretty big deal. And sometimes I think that's hard to comprehend. 89% of the country's population is still within 25 miles of a Buick dealership. Now, I suspect if those four, the funny thing is, it didn't show pictures of the um, Buicks that are available in China, but it would have been interesting kind of to see where
Well,
that, might have played
I'm
out.
sure if you go on to Google Images and you type in Chinese Buick, electric cars or something of that nature, you'll probably get some images of them.
Let's
They don't,
see
obviously, because
here.
they're in China and they're being focused there. We don't see a lot of coverage here.
No, but let's see what we get here. Buick EV China share. So here's one, the Velite 7. The old, that changed. Yeah, the Ultium based and Electrified. Those all look pretty nice. Of course, part of the situation is they have to make it so that it passes U.S. standards
Right.
and highway crash tests and all that. And that takes some time. But I just, I don't know. I get disappointed when I see some of this because, like I've said before, you've got three stages of cars basically. You've got gas, you've got plug-in hybrids, and you've got the full battery electric, vehicles. And while a lot of what we try to talk about is mainly the fully electric vehicles, obviously if somebody goes from gas to a plug-in hybrid, they get the benefit of never going to the gas station again unless they're going on the highway. And then it's just a matter then the people feel the next urge to switch to just a
Just go
an
pure
electric
electric.
vehicle because they realize it wasn't a big deal,
Yeah.
you know. And
And, and
so,
and the thing with plug-in hybrids too is you're maintaining two power plants instead of one. You know, so that you're carrying around two propulsion systems, one of which you're only using at a given time. So
well,
does it
and
make
one of
sense?
them, the gas engine or a gas generator, as the case may be, depending on the vehicle, you're not using it that much.
Right.
So it's really the electric motor you're driving a lot.
And the interesting thing about when Chevy introduced the Volt, they had to explain to people that every now and then your engine's going to come on because we have to burn the gas in your engine in your tank because it degrades over time.
Right.
And so they had to the Volt had to be fueled with premium gas, and
Oh,
so it had to be burned off. You have to burn it off periodically, even though if you're running electric all the time, every now and then that engine's got to come on so they can burn off the consume the gasoline in the tank before it goes bad. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I understand that, but it's probably not a great deal. You know what I mean? It's not like you're having to go buy gas every week
oh
to
no
fill up
no
your
no
car. And,
once a
you know,
month maybe, depending on, of course, your commute and if you're going to visit grandma over Christmas, but
and that's going to be a small amount of gas too.
yeah,
It's not going to be
relatively
a,
sure.
yeah, it's not going to be a 15-gallon, purchase.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bill, that's all we've got for today.
Well, it was fun.
All right.
You have, and everybody listening, have a great holiday season. Happy Kwanzaa, happy Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah.
Oh,
what,
yeah.
yeah, whatever you happen to, whatever flavor of celebration you like to enjoy and share, enjoy and share.
Yes.
We'll see you guys after Christmas.
Yeah.